Part 4, Sell Better. What do y'all think about this book so far? Selling in a Crisis. 55 ways to stay motivated in a down market.
He is really a common sense, rubber meets the road guy. There's a lot there, and I appreciate his brevity of words.
Yeah, I like the little bitty chapters.
Yeah.
Ernie, how you doing?
I think it's the brevity. Also, it's full of content. I mean, you'll read 2 or 3 pages, go, I got to go back and reread because he's packed it in. I like the fact he just kind of cuts the chase because don't want to waste your time. And I don't think he is. It's good.
Yeah.
Don't bring charm to a gunfight. The few prospects and customers, I'm just hitting some of my highlights. The few prospects and customers who are buying are more risk averse. They are fearful of making mistakes and hesitant to make decisions. Stakeholders are in a vulnerable position. I agree.
There's always a reputation risk, especially if you're a big consumer, of making a bad buy or bringing on a vendor or somebody like that fails. And then the finger gets pointed back at the person who made the buying decision. But now, what all the salespeople and the consultants are saying, it's rarely an independent individual, even on a company staff that makes decisions. It's usually a group of people or multiple departments, especially if the cost of the item is larger.
I saw a situation, Beth and I were talking about, I worked with that pharma company, Otsuka, and they needed to close. They needed to shorten their close from 30 days to 3 days. So they were going to outsource accounts payable, and they hired a company to do that. They said, okay, based on your current number of vendors, now get this, they had over 30,000 approved vendors. 30,000. They said the price for that's $5 million a month. If you cut your authorized vendors down to 10,000, it's $1 million a month. What do you think happened? A bunch of these people that were put on approved vendors because one of the officers liked them or they had a deal got cut out. So they went from 30,000, 10,000 vendors, saved a huge amount of money. And guess what? It turned up the competition on the remaining vendors. So it worked for them and plus saved a ton of administrative time. But that's one that was very clear. I had numbers to kind of match up to this is good or bad. Now, again, if you're just buying stuff, but you're not checking the quality, that's a different animal. Okay. You got to have the quality also, but that was a part of that review.
This thing about don't bring charm to a gunfight. Interesting title. I find it to be, maybe I'm missing something, but
I think you can take it if you have knowledge of the disc, and certainly Danny does. He's taught it before. Almost everybody in the room knows that if you're dealing with another high D personality, they're not going to swallow the whole, magic cup being under the shell game type thing. They don't want your charm. They want you to cut to the bottom line really quick and tell them what you're going to do for them. I think that's probably what he's referring to. Is you better know who you're presenting to, what kind of personality they have.
Yeah, it says your buyers are judging you based on their intentions, not yours.
So if you can read disc, you're a leg up.
The chapter ends with, this is your back to the fundamental moment. When the stakes are high for every opportunity in your pipeline, you don't rely on charm and good intentions, you sell better.
Back to the late 50s, early 60s out of the Northeast, where you built relationships and you did coffee, donuts, dinners, whatever it took. It was all relationship, a little smooze going on, possibly some under the table. And that changed over from the probably late 70s, early 80s. The power went to the buyer. and a very quantitative approach to purchasing.
You remember the book Good to Great, and one of the things they found with those 11 great companies, which you had to be at a certain level for at least 20 years, none of them were had charismatic CEOs. Chapter 32, it's a sales process, stupid.
That's my thing. It really is. You know?
How's that?
Well, I mean, I think people want to take shortcuts. They don't want to do all the steps, you know?
Yep.
And it is a process. You can't just, I had a manager kept telling me, you got to open with a close. You got to open with a close. And I just wanted to punch him in the face. Like, you have to earn your close. You don't just open with a close. But he was all about trial close from the very beginning. I'm like, we're selling a pharmaceutical product that has clinical data. You know, not every, anyway, he drove me nuts because he was always wanting to shorten the process to the point where, you know, open with a close, whatever.
Yeah. And he's got 7 steps in here. Then he says, if you take shortcuts in the sales process, you will experience stalled deals, prospects will ghost you, and competitors will eat your lunch.
Amen.
If you're seeking Jedi mind tricks, secret techniques, or something new, different, easy, I've got some harsh news for you. There isn't anything new, different, or easy. Anyone who tells you differently is either lying or pandering. Follow a well-designed sales process with qualified prospects. You will close more deals, make more money, and succeed in any economic environment.
So the big change that, like, guys that are well known, like Anthony Iannarino and some other people will tell you that things have changed into a solution selling thing where you go in with something without asking a ton of questions because you know the client's issues, and you make a proposal that will address their issues as a subject matter expert, which means that you're going to have to work harder as a selling organization. And that's your differentiating factor. I would still argue that there are plenty of companies that still need to go through a 6-step selling process. Not everybody is selling an entire system, but if you get to big orders and things of that nature where it's a capital purchase, you really got to know your stuff, or you're going to get blown out with the people who come in with a real strong total solutions. Let me take this over for you. I'm the answer to your problems.
Yeah, he says here, you got to qualify better. You must avoid spinning your wheels on deals that will never close.
You're muted.
Yeah, thank you. I think the second step of qualifying is the Achilles heel. I see clients that go, well, I pursued this customer. Well, they really weren't a customer at that time. They thought they would buy something from because they liked them, and there just wasn't a need at that point. But they put a ton of work in, a ton of work. So it costs money to do these steps. It at least costs your time, but it costs money in a lot of these for bigger accounts. I mean, you got research to do, you got to present it. It's a real deal.
You must consider factual evidence and listen to your intuition and gut instinct when assessing the viability of a deal. There's a difference, however, between taking a calculated risk and chasing an ugly deal out of desperation or delusion. Everyone's a genius in a bull market. Deal with decision makers.
Easier said than done.
It is, because you get a bunch of people saying, I can do this, I can do that, and trying to, like, you get people from manufacturing floor saying, I can use your parts, but then you get to the person that handles that, they're like, no, we're good, we got it covered.
Yeah.
Right?
So Gary, what's the best process to find out who can really make the decision?
Yes, sir.
you're going to have to be pretty blunt. It's this whole thing of trade-off ROI with your time and your
Yeah.
effort. I'm usually patient and persistent, but I think even advice for myself would be, and I don't like to use the word confrontational, but it's got to be, you really do have to ask, are you the one that actually makes the final decision? And if not, who should I be speaking with?
Absolutely.
Now, that's when it's a one-person decision process. If it's a team, you better be communicating, for example, with purchasing, IT, whatever department in the facility, whether it be production, HR, safety, kind of on an industrial process. Who's got the biggest clout and who makes the final decision? And I found that a lot of engineers will tell you they'll go to bat for you, but when purchasing gets on the line, they'll bail. It's rare that they will really go to bat for you when you're talking about a multi-person sale. So you just have to be a little bit more blunt and to the point, and try to be as diplomatic about it as you possibly can.
Yeah.
That's why having a lot of opportunities in the hopper is the wisest course of action. Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
I completely agree.
He says it's what Gary said. He says the most common reason you end up working with the wrong person, however, is that you ask one simple but deadly question: are you the decision maker? He goes on to say, so why would a stakeholder lie to you so bluntly?
Oh,
he says most stakeholders don't do so with ill intentions. Rather, they're trying to protect their own fragile ego.
yeah, they're protecting the power base. I've had that happen. So, when I worked for Experience, we had a very clear path. Who is the project sponsor? That is the only person we dealt with. And usually that person was not the CEO. It was usually controller, CFO, head of IT, CIO, something like that. Not the CEO. They're like, just get the finance stuff done. But that really saved a lot of time for them, because they weren't wasting with all that dance, if you will, to get someone to finally say, well, I can't approve it. So.
Hey, on that movie Ghostbusters, the guy said, I am the gatekeeper.
Yes. Yes. And the other thing we had as a rule, we never dealt with HR. They said, oh, HR is going to handle this. No. By the time you get it approved and get me a login, I have to be done with the job. Oh, we just get the CFO to hire over them. They mentioned HR, we were out. The meeting was over. We were out.
And don't be surprised to get lied to on a fairly regular basis. You will.
No.
Oh.
Yep. Guys, none of us except for Mike, maybe some, Beth, yes. But really good steps in here when you are dealing with stakeholders, trying to figure out who is the decision maker. The qualifying questions that you ask. It got some examples of questions that uncover the truth without putting your prospect on the spot. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 questions. And I ask a lot of qualifying questions myself. I'm typically dealing with the decision maker.
I think a key thing is when you do real estate, when you meet with a client, you evaluate who the decision maker is. Sometimes it's the husband, sometimes it's the wife, a lot of times it's the kids, which is crazy these times. So you evaluate them and you see who's going to make the decision or who likes what, and go from there. Yeah. Now the kids can't pay for the house, but a lot of times I've seen where the kids end up getting the master bedroom in some families. It's insane.
Yeah, next chapter, advance with micro commitments. I really like this chapter. It's a pretty long chapter too, if I remember right. I'm looking here. Nope, not that one. But get micro commitments as you go. Come up with in the sales process where you need to estimate for commitment. Give some small commitments that'll lead you into the decision maker and lead them along the way.
There's a 10-step process as I was taught decades ago. And it's a ladder of 10 different levels of interest between you and your buyer. And really, as a salesperson relating to this micro agreements, if you can go a step or two up that ladder, you should consider it a successful call. Another thing, going back to the previous point, was that I would always ask, is this a capital purchase, or what's your capital budget criteria? Because then it had to go through a budgeting process that could take anywhere from 6 months to a year, and totally different sell if they have to go through submitting a capital funds request and getting it approved by finance at corporate. I'm helping you.
Yeah.
I'm consulting, free
Yeah.
consulting, free, no charge.
So, the main thing is, and we all see this, it is your job to keep the ball rolling. You should never expect your prospect to do this for you. If you don't have a firm next step on their calendar, you'll spend the next month chasing them. Never end a sales meeting without setting and committing to a firm next step with your stakeholder. Chapter 36, keep the faith. Starts off there about a $1 million contract that he had to walk away from, and he had to call the salesperson, tell them, obviously, or it seems that she'd probably really been engaged with the company for a long period of time, getting them up to that point, and then the market changed, so they walked away. Information in here about getting burned out. Protect yourself from getting burned out. You begin replacing human to human interaction with shortcuts and arm's length communication. Goes on to talk about your mindset is deadly to your income. Sell better, qualify better. Discovering better requires faith in the process. Back to what you've all been talking about. You're going to lose deals even when you do everything right, but you cannot lose those losses, allow those losses to shake your faith in consistently doing the right things right. Discover better, except for putting the right qualified opportunities into the pipeline in the first place. Nothing else has a greater impact on your ability to close sales in a crisis than effective discovery, period. Discovery, the most important step in the sales process. I think you kind of alluded to that a while ago, Gary, didn't you?
Mhm.
80% or more of your time should be spent in the discovery prospect. That's kind of like, I look at networking as part of the discovery prospect. My follow through that I use with everybody, it's a discovery process, trying to discover who it is that is attracted to me, and who replies to emails, who don't. During the discovery, you must be patient, methodical, and empathetic. The objective is to leverage strategic and artful questions. And then he gives some bullet points there.
Hey, Danny, what's your number one red flag when you're networking? When you hear something come out of somebody's mouth, you go, "Okay, I'm done." What's your red
My
flag?
number one is when somebody's walking around, they got business cards in their hand. Okay, that's my number one.
There you go. That's good.
And
That's good.
Herdy, what was the book that the Wharton Business School professor, what was his name?
What's that?
The top 30, give and take.
Adam Grant.
Yeah, Adam Grant. That guy, we've talked about this before. The top third people, most successful people are givers. Bottom third are givers. In the middle is filled with matchers and takers. Difference between the top third successful and the bottom third that's not successful is that the bottom third lets people suck all the life out of them.
Mm.
Okay. And so they're not using, I would say, not using good qualifiers there. And but he has a chapter in that book about networking. And people that come to a networking event and they're just giving out cards and they're just trying to take your time. They're just takers. So the other thing is, when I asked somebody, had this happen last Wednesday night, it was like me saying, "Hi, Herdy, how you doing?" "I'm good, Danny." And then you give me a sales pitch, and I couldn't even tell you what they were even selling. All they did was dump on me what they're selling.
And you bought a lot from them, I'm sure.
Yeah. I always liked Scott Carley's. Remember one day he stood up in CBLG and held up his credit card. He said, "Who checked to be sure they had their credit card when they walked in here because they were going to buy something from somebody?" No one did that. Quit coming in here or any networking event and trying to sell to people. I think we lost about a dozen of the potion and lotion people on that one, didn't we?
Yeah.
But they were hard to get rid of too.
Well, just anytime you have a bunch of them, just invite Carly over there. He'll take care of it for you.
Yeah. So, but yeah, this chapter here, discovery. Yeah, I haven't really thought about it till reading this, but for me, that's what networking is. Networking, the follow through process, getting their cards, coming back, and a few days later, send them an email, and and we'll see who's going to reply back. Just on that, and just all of that's a discovery process. To close sales in a crisis, you must discover better. Number 38, emotional experience matters. There's truth in sales. Your stakeholders' emotional experience as they walk through the decision journey with you is a more consistent predictor of outcome than any other variable. Again, most of us, except for Mike and Beth, Mike, you deal with the people that call you. They're pretty much the decision makers, right?
Most of the time, yes.
Yeah.
There's been some discussion on, like, when I meet with people in my role on my business card, VP, why would a VP be out trying to find business? So sometimes that can hurt you as well, but we're so small. I don't know.
Well, Rob was the president, and he was y'all's #1 salesperson.
Yeah. It's crazy.
But he had some conflict with that too.
Yeah.
So, Mike, you think people make assumptions based on that title alone?
I think that's what I'm being told. I'm being told that why would a VP be out looking for business? It looks bad on the company. They should have salespeople just for that as well. VP should be doing other function of the business, not, looking for work.
Well,
We're small.
Yeah, but again, that's because you're selling a solution, not a invoice.
Exactly. Yeah.
I know maybe they don't get that, but if you're just selling if it's just a checkbox of sale, you don't need to be out there, but that's not what you're doing. Maybe that's the way to explain it. I don't know.
Yeah.
This whole on listening better, pausing, giving people time to finish. Nothing makes a stakeholder feel like you aren't listening more than you're talking over them.
Yep. Listen.
Pausing
Listen.
leaves room for others to finish speaking, prevents you from cutting them off if they have more to say.
It's difficult sometimes. You ever talk to those people that just won't stop talking? And it's like you don't even have a spot to get in, but yet you just continue to talk and talk and talk and talk, and you can't explain anything. So that's a hard way to do sometimes.
Yeah, I called my brother the other day. We talked about 7 minutes. I called him to ask him a specific question. He talked for 7, 8, at least 7 or 8 minutes. And told me a story about killing an animal that he'd already texted me, sent me pictures and told me about once, told me about it again. Then he go, hey, I gotta go. Talk to you later. So finally, when I got back to the house, I just texted him, asked him what I wanted to know. Listen to understand rather than to formulate a response. Listen without jumping to conclusions. Don't assume that you know what those thoughts and feelings are and finish their sentences. This was a really long chapter. Sell outcomes. Value equal outcomes plus business minus price. I'm sorry, emotional outcomes plus personal outcomes plus business outcomes minus price.
This is the area where the latest sales consultants are proposing the market has gone to, is solution selling.
Versus what, Gary?
The individual process of discovery, prepare, present, overcome objections,
Okay.
attempted close, it's like going there and go, Tom, I know you're an independent consulting CPA, and I've dealt with other people like you. I know what your issues are, and consequently, I'd like to make a proposal to you that we think would save you 20% and increase your gross 10, blah, blah, blah. Bam, one fell swoop.
Okay. Okay. Well, I mean, something I've seen recently is, I've seen some of that, Gary, through emails, trying to talk, get in touch with me. You have to be careful you don't sell the wrong outcome. If you didn't have enough information to select an outcome, like you're saying, here's a short version. Yeah.
I'm having a hard time buying into the whole solution selling thing because I think you can chew on some major shoe leather, but sometimes that would require hiring outside expertise or bringing on a salesperson or executive that knew this particular industry that you're trying to break into, make it worth the investment. I've seen companies do that, literally form a different division with subject matter experts and go after that market.
It's kind of, I mean, this is kind of off the subject, but kind of on the subject at the same time, based on what Tom said. Is anybody watch The Rookie? Remember watch that show?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they were asking Officer Thorson if he was basically got to ask 6 questions about a murder of somebody, which was somewhat hypothetical. But the question was, he automatically assumed that it was basically somebody there was bones found towards La Brea tar pits or whatever. And then and the boyfriend works at the same place she does. And so he got his whole mindset down the line and asked all the questions that the boyfriend did it. He never asked how old the bones were because, well, they were 10,000 years old and the person was killed by a saber-toothed tiger. But he was that's the thing, like you were saying, if you don't have the right answers in the first place, you could sell the completely wrong thing because you don't get the right information on the front side.
Right. Well, we've got a situation currently, Diana's working through this. And so a company hired a consultant and they promised him a solution, which was encapsulated in a particular piece of software. And oh, by the way, about 3 weeks into it, they figure out this company has never, ever, ever installed or implemented this software. So they sold the solution, the outcome. They were not qualified. And so now you can imagine the chaos because it's kind of like they're put in the middle of their accounting system, and it's a mess because they basically oversold and way underdelivered, but they have not a clue how that software works. But the client said, "Wow, they're experts, they're consultants, we'll hire them." It's a disaster.
This chapter And what you're saying there, Tom, makes me that, when selling, well, in the book, Speed of Trust, he talks about tell the truth in ways that can be verified.
There you
And so I realize I buy that way now. Can I verify what you're saying?
That's a good point. And Danny, we do that because there's so many misrepresentations out there about people that claim to be experts, correct?
Yeah. Says here, your ability to clearly articulate these value bridges is a key to helping decision makers rise above their fear and move forward. When you explain value, complexity is your enemy. The human brain is lazy. It seeks the lowest cognitive load and disengages when it feels overwhelmed. I've got all this new software that I'm using and I've listened to the videos, sat through the online classes, but it's hands-on that I learned from, and I need to pull a credit report a while ago, and I couldn't remember how to pull a credit report. That was embarrassing. I figured it out, but I did have to think through it. And that point is that, and I told with my reverse lender, my underwriting company, I told the rep yesterday, I said, I promise you, I've watched many videos completely, and I've started about 10 for one that I've watched. I've started that many more others. And he said, yeah, they make them way too lengthy and complex. And so right up this alley right here. Close better. You go, Gary. When it comes to closing sales in a crisis, there is far less margin for error. Closing.
Ideally, you want to have presented your case in such a manner that it's a no-brainer for the customer, and you simply have to ask for the order, but you still have to ask. In the other case, if they're not sold on your solution, then asking is going to bring up what their deeper objections are, so you can address those.
Yeah. He says it's executing the funnel, sell to the right prospects, conduct deep discovery, make a compelling case for change, and earn trust with excellence throughout the entire sales process. Then he goes on, kind of repeats it. Well, he says, if I'm sounding like a broken record, take heart. Repetition is the mother of skill. And then he lists them out again, but also handling objections, a couple other things you said a while ago, Gary. When you show up and throw up, rush headlong into a sales call without planning, pitch rather than discovery. People, he goes on some other things. People will not buy from you. I was telling Tom earlier today, we're setting up some partnership with some key people. You got a certain size a real estate company, and you can deliver. We'll set up a partnership where they'll own part of this mortgage company. And I was meeting South Austin today at lunch with two guys, and this is the third meeting with one. First with another guy, with the second person, and they were getting into the sales process and making phone calls. And I said, guys, anybody you want to run numbers on, send me who they are, and or you want to talk to, send me who they are. I'll run some numbers to see if they're capable of sending us the minimum per year that we want. And then just call them. Gary, you ever thought about owning your own mortgage company? And you're going to get, most of them have said yes. Most of them have been approached by one or two of the 3 or 4 other companies that do this, but they're wanting tens of thousands of dollars up front. So your normal objection is going to be, yeah, but it's too expensive. And say, well, let's sit down with a guy that I know, and there's nothing up front, and there's no ongoing fees. They just want to set a partnership with you. Make it real simple. Don't try to get into a long, drawn out, complex sales pitch. But then you can get into it. You can start discovering what their other real pain points are once you get to the table. Stop obsessing over objections. Qualify better. Ensure you're dealing with the decision makers. Do early discovery. Ask strategic questions. This is a good one. Disrupt decision deferment. That's usually when you find out that they're not the decision maker, right?
Or Danny, they bought a similar service or product and they got burned.
Yeah.
I'm running to that where I sit down with them and they've been so burned by their prior professional. So I'm trying to differentiate myself from that group. And sometimes it's operator error, right? Sometimes you're potential customer, but they want to talk it over because of their past experience.
Yeah. He gives 6 steps. Beth, you probably dealt with more this type of than anybody. This deferring, I need to talk it over with so-and-so, give us a few days to go with proposal. I need to get with my team. He uses the following steps to help you guide your client through their avoidance so they can make a decision. Relate, isolate, prioritize, clarify, minimize, and then ask. Do you have a sales process, Beth?
Well, sure. I'm not in sales at the moment, but I'm still dealing with sales. Basically, everybody's selling, right? So, yeah. And that with finding the right person is the biggest problem when it's a committee. It'll be a formulary committee at a hospital or, like Austin Regional Clinic to get them to buy my combination vaccine. No one would take point for it, right? And the head pediatrician was waiting for Sanofi's, not ours. And I'm like, theirs isn't on the market. Ours is. You could be doing this now. And I finally stopped him on a sidewalk outside the clinic, just kind of said, why are you waiting? We have it. But, and so then it kind of started moving forward. And then guess what? Competition snuck in and said, okay, but it's going to cost the clinic $50,000 a year to make that switch. Completely made up number, but that got everybody's attention, blah, blah, blah. So I had to go back in, and fight that. So some of the things I'm doing now are more of a one-on-one. But the problem I have is I'm talking to a medical assistant and she will say to me, if this drug is this hard to get, we're just not going to use it. And I'm like, and you have MD behind your name is what I want to say, because the doctor wrote the prescription, not you. And so one of them was pretty rude the other day in El Paso. And I just, she's like, well, this is too hard. We're not going to do this. And I said, well, you do understand these drugs aren't interchangeable. Ours is in a brand new category and you can't just switch them out. And it kind of took her aback because I don't think anybody ever sort of confronted her at all. She was just sort of like the queen bee of like, well, if it's too hard, we'll just use one of the other drugs. And I'm like, this is a game changer drug. And I just gave her a little bit about, acted like she kind of knew. So I said, you don't have to have a high eosinophil count. she's done 12 weeks post high school. She doesn't know what an eosinophil count is. It's okay. But just to get her brain going. And I said, if it's too hard is the problem, you can send them to an infusion center. So instead of taking them off the drug the doctors requested, you could just ship them, they have 2 patients, right? You can, and she was telling me, I've got 200 patients, blah, blah, and I'm like, well, then that's 1%. You could just ship them over to an infusion center and they'll do the work. Use the easy button. So I kind of think I got through, and I shouldn't have to be doing a sales call on a medical assistant.
Yeah.
The doctor's already made the decision the patient should be on this drug, but so many people get involved in the process. So
And
it's
everybody wants to say no.
yeah,
And reason to say no.
yeah, exactly. So anyway, thank you for letting me vent a little. That really drove me nuts.
No, right there is, you can, next chapter, we'll pick it back up on next week and we'll finish this book next week, but control your emotions.
Yeah, I don't let that show at all. I just smile. I'm their best friend. I mean,
And you work real hard not to call them a dumbass.
oh my God, no kidding. No kidding. And I run into it a lot. Unfortunately. And the truth is they're kind of well-meaning. They're not like just jerks. They're well-meaning people, but they're very lazy. If something takes a little extra effort, something new, there's nothing in it for them. See?
Yeah.
Yep.
We have a society of everything's supposed to be easy and quick.
Yep.
And what are you saying, Herdy? Herdy, you've been so quiet today. We're gonna let you have the parting word.
All right, so y'all been talking about the sales process, and the whole time I've been sitting there listening, thinking about how stuff works online, and really we're at a great advantage to meet with people one-to-one because there's buzzwords like magic, trick, secret that are real quickie ways to try to get people hooked. And then we've got these things called sales funnels online, which I've been arguing against for years. They're not leads or opportunities. You still have to go through the process with anybody that's come through that process. And so the total online thing is total, I'm not going to say it's impersonal, but it's not as personal as the handshakes. And I still tell people, if you're not meeting people, you're not going to sell anything. And it has nothing to do with online sales. So I'm one of these in agreement that you can take, I can't tell you how many customers I've had to go back in and work with that were sold a bill of goods on a quick solution, like your Google business page is all messed up. We need to help you. We're only going to charge you $1,000 a month, and they don't get any reports. They don't get any follow-up. And so I can go in on the back end of those and really hold their hand through the process, give them an actual scope of work, what's going to be accomplished, when it's going to be done, and deadlines, and put them at ease. So the online sales part, which we're all involved in, is totally not addressed in this book. But what is addressed in this book is the proper way to sell, and that's never going to change. That's my wisdom on today.
Yeah, it's
Quick thoughts.
Hey,
nothing.
Herdy, let me ask you something. I've done 2 email blasts for my nonprofit. 300 people have emails out of the 500 in my group. The rest are like they're in nursing homes, whatever. But I had a 66% open rate. And I think that's pretty good I'm not asking them for money or anything, but it's just information. And we've never done it before. What would be standard for when you're in an organization?
Well, that's excellent, but it'll probably trickle down over time because it might be so new that people are opening it. But the 15% range below to that range is probably a real good open rate. Even 6%. You remember direct mail used to be 1%, right? So anything, it's good. but the real analytics on a newsletter is maybe they click to open it and that's what's showing, but are they going to the internal links? Are they hitting important things you want them to go a step deeper? So that's the analytics worth looking at, but at least you're getting it out in front of people you ordinarily wouldn't talk to. So it's kind of a gate opener, but that's a high percentage.
It
Beth,
is.
anything over 25% is really good.
I agree.
A quick comment while I got the floor. I'm finishing up on a sales book. It's actually, the title is Sales Leadership, bundled with 21 issues found in small to medium-sized business enterprises. Should be finished in a week or 10 days. I want to send that to you guys for a quick preview, read, and recommendation statement, and your name will get published in the front of the book. I'm not asking you to read it verbatim every word because it's 32,000 plus words, but if you'll peruse it, give me your opinion. And so I'll let you know when I'm going to send it out, but that would be greatly appreciated from a group of seasoned sales pros.
Any comments, thoughts about that? Just let me know. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you
Thanks,
all.
Dan.
Sorry I
Thank you.
had to drop in and out. Makes me crazy, but
All right.
they're paying me to be at work, so.
You got it. See
Have a
you.
great day. Thank y'all.
See you. Bye-bye.
Appreciate it. Bye.